would like to start with a request, very short answers. If you want to make remarks, you're free to make remarks. Just to start. So far we talked about producers and processors, processing industries. I would like to give you the floor or to address two large distribution, referring to an issue already mentioned this morning, mentioned by De Castro, on consumption trends. This is the first thing we must know. The first thing we have to understand, so the end market, final market, so what the market wants from us, and how the market is responding to this crisis, reacting to this crisis, where consumption is being reduced. So, Vincenzo Tassinari, let's now see how consumption are doing. In the first 6 months of 2012 was not doing very well. So what about the first months of 2013? What is happening? Good afternoon to everybody, first of all. How different from I gave the first overview, gave an overview. So 2012 was not doing very well. I am talking about the modern larger distribution. So as for COOP, CONAD, is not so much included in this discussion because the phenomenon, yes, it's a general phenomenon. When I talk about the large modern distribution as for 2012, so results were negative. And these negative trends are negative trends, and were negative trends in absolute terms. So this is a huge problem. And also it was negative because it had negative figures both for volumes and values. So a negative trend in terms of volumes and values. So this is a negative mix. And as far as I am concerned, also considering my background, in absolute terms, in mathematical terms, this is quite negative. I mean, there is no element, not one single individual element in terms of policy that was implemented in order to prevent this from occurring or from not happening. So 2013 is even worse. So in 2013, in the first months of 2013, in the first weeks of May, for the large modern distribution, we have minus figures, both for volumes and values as well. So, undoubtedly, this is a consequence due to the fact that our consumers that is to say, those decide about the destiny of our companies, so the consumers had a sort of twofold effect. That is to say, a negative effect due to the crisis, but also a psychological effect. So Italian households are in great difficulties, 20 million Italian households with an average or low or very low income, that are very strong consumers of our products and whose purchasing power is decreasing. So this is going to lead to a consumption downtrend or consumption decrease. So So this phenomenon is very typical to and peculiar to periods of crisis like ours. Since we don't have a confidence perspective, so even those who might afford to consume or to buy, they're not inclined to do that. I don't want to make prospects. We don't have a crystal ball. We are among players, and we are all conscious about the situation, but until we won't receive a positive signal, consumption is not going to recover. And this is the picture, and this will be the picture. It means that this was also specified by the speakers from IRI. So modern distribution is no longer the happy island. There is someone who still believes that modern distribution has got a sort of anti-cyclical movement and results, but it's not true, absolutely not. So modern distribution is no longer a happy island. We have to come to terms with the crisis also deeply felt by Italian families. And also these policies, which might also be not agreed upon. So I think that CONAD and COOP also adopted some initiatives, extraordinary initiatives, which are not promotional initiatives, but initiatives which are keen to support families. And then I conclude, because I was asked to be brief. And so this country, so either we start to consider and adopt a more global approach, because we all have to work in the same system, and also considering that we have households and families going through this extremely difficult crisis. So the larger distribution system is going through these difficulties. We are going to have a real serious selection process, and severe selection process. And I don't want to tackle the financial issues, but this is going to produce extremely negative effects on the distribution chains. So a selection process that we are going to see is going to be very severe. As for the production world, like it was represented very well this morning, so is going through the same serious situation. So an old project like sitting around a table and trying to understand which are the real actions we might take so that the Italian system, Italian companies, supported by a government with the right policies, how we can also tackle this situation. Many policies that we have had are wrong policies, so we are not having brilliant results. So we should try and understand how to have projects and how to lay a sound foundations for the agriculture, for distribution, for the production system, but above all for the customers, so that we can adopt this global approach. Then I conclude. I listened to Saccomanni, the new Minister of Economy, who said he has intentions to organize a roundtable with bank, companies, entrepreneurs and consumers. I absolutely agree with this concept. So the pyramid has to be turned upside down because, first of all, Italian households and families have to be protected with jobs, the companies as well, and banks should be at the disposal of households and families, Italian families. Thank you. Calzolari. Granarolo. So Tassinari said that it's desirable to sit around the table and try and discuss about these issues, because either we work in a synergic way with all the elements of the supply chains, otherwise we will all fail. We've got to protect our interests. We know very well that very often we organize roundtables with no result. But this crisis will oblige us to create the so-called global system with a collaboration across the board from top to the bottom.
In realtà, normalmente in situazioni di crisi, di difficoltà, ognuno la prima reazione che
Actually,
è di chiudersi.
in periods and times of crisis, the personal reaction would be to protect yourself in order to defend your zone, your area. So, in this period of crisis and difficulties, or structural change in terms of duration and in terms of effects, the consequences are so serious and severe that we all understand. We all understood that. We cannot do something on our own because the real point is the point stressed by Tassinari. If consumers cannot afford to spend money or to buy products, we can adopt whatever strategy, but we are very unlikely to solve the problem. So, first of all, we need the right policies. I agree with what Vincenzo said before. As far as the agricultural world or the industrial world are concerned, I think that the independent approach or isolated approach, where each one tries to compete against the others to the detriment of all the others, I think it's now the time to make a quantum leap, or imagine to live in a process and play your own role, or we think that we all have to reconsider our organization and reconsider our way of working. So like this morning, we are talking about the farming, the farmers or the industries and distribution as well. We can't make it on our own. We need a system. We need to work within a global system, and we need also to take care and to listen to the general interests. So we've got to go beyond this resistance and try to reconsider all the opportunities of our country, just to say quality, excellence, the willingness to work. So it's very much important to know that we've got excellent companies. Not exceptional performance, but excellent performances as far as the know-how and the expertise are concerned. But then we've got to counter terms with the fact that in other countries or other countries also thanks to a good organization, can outperform us and do something more. We've got huge opportunities and excellent opportunities, that is to say, to move our plant abroad. But if we do not have the right organization to move our production and plants, I mean, we might have the most important plants, but if we are not very well organized, we will export 50% of what Germany exports. Maybe we've got the excellence or the expertise, but we're not very well organized. So, like Germany anticipated the market and moved their plans also thanks to their expertise and organization. So we need to reconsider this idea of working in an entire global system, a system which is made by many components, and having also the possibility to create aggregations in terms of production sites, suppliers, consumers, with a common logic. I think we need to be quick and swift and to the right structure and the right size. As far as the organization is concerned, just like this morning, someone mentioned this morning, this topic of organization. So organization and expert. So our distribution system, do you think our distribution system is supporting us to get out from our borders and move and export our products abroad? Or how could it be improved in terms of increasing and boosting exports? We are suffering from this peculiarity, that is to say, from working within our close territory. We would like to have a very large and sound distribution system and export our products to foreign countries. But first of all, we as producers, we should be able to have the product in a very organized way, to make the product available through the distribution, to organize production, a standardized and organized distribution. Zuliani, CONAD. Are you working on instruments? Are you considering to work on instruments so that Italian companies can be supported to export their product? How can you help farmers? How can you help domestic producers? How would you respond to this need? Well, we are members of a European concentration, PERNIC, COOP Swiss in Switzerland, CONAD in Belgium. We've got a network. We are a part of this network. We have already organized initiatives. We started to export our product, and we also set up a brand for this network. It's called Creazioni d'Italia. It's a selection of 100 Italian products belonging to the food business, including also cheese. It's a commercial brand. Which is exported to 25 countries. Reve is a multinational company in 18 countries. Leclerc is in 5 European countries. So it's quite a global network. There are other examples. Our network is an association. We don't have our own shops abroad, except and apart from a few in Malta and Albania. But this type of association is doing very well if you have a good marketing. This is something that was not mentioned. We are very poor at making marketing abroad. In April, I was in London. I also spent a couple of years in the UK. But it's really amazing to see how Caffè Nero replaced Starbucks. Caffè Nero is not Italian. Caffè Nero is the real taste of Italian coffee. So we're really bad at distributing our products abroad. I mean, on our own, we cannot do nothing at all. Like French, when they do something, they are supported by logistics, real estate, all together. They move all together to a foreign country. We are not working like that. We've got cases like Caffè Nero, which is not Italian, replacing Starbucks. I mean, but we are really bad at selling Italian food. I mean, which is the weak point? I mean, which is the main hindrance that, according to you, hampers this process? Our mission is to sell our products to these countries where Copernic is present. We don't have a business plan, not yet. We had a lot of requests, like on our brand, commercial brand, Saponieri Intorni, for example. A lot of foreign chains asked us this product. See, we can make these alliances. And this way of working and collaborating with producers is the right one, but we need something more. I mean, we are on our own. I mean, the producers or the manufacturers should be supported by the other players. We need to be supported by the government. And above all, we are no longer willing to say I go abroad and I go and export my product to foreign countries because we are disappointed. So what I think it's advisable to have is to have a better collaboration among ourselves. But it depends on the final idea we have, because if we simply wanted to market our products abroad, it's something, or whether we want to open a shop also in a foreign country, it's something different. So Bortoli, is the large distribution ready or willing to enhance the value of Italian products, like in the case of Latte Bosca? Latte Bosca is produced on the hills and the mountains. It's collected from the hills and the mountains. I mean, is this large distribution willing to segment the market, differentiate products, and also stress the value of these products, having a higher cost than those products, for example, that are produced in the plains? Sorry. I don't have recipes. This is what I'm doing. This is my experience. Working 3,000 quintals of milk per day. So, very small vis-à-vis the other companies sitting here close to me. I'm saying that all these rules concerning, the economy and the policy, or whatever was said or not said, and also concerning conflicts or between large distributions and manufacturers. I agree with all that. But please, allow me to divide larger distribution into two larger categories, which is not based on the size, and I am talking about our experience. Depends on the inclination to or willingness to sell something different. I think that we have a lot of collaborators and support from the local distribution, Calzolari. I heard Calzolari making a lot of statements on the availability of these excellent opportunities that Italian manufacturers have to change that trend in order to support local producers. This is a sort of declaration of intention, but then from the practical point of view, sometimes the idea of selling non-qualified products or selling a different product is sometimes detrimental. So this is a part of our large distribution. Then there is also another side of the coin where you cannot get out from the logics of price. So, for the reasons that you highlighted before. Now, I've got to talk on behalf of farmers producing in the mountains, not in the hills. So, if they don't have a certain level of profitability, they are obliged to close their farms. So, even before talking about products, we've got to consider these more general situations, general conditions. So I'm not talking about simply a niche market. I would like also to say something else and make a remark. Without export, we wouldn't be able to go on working. And thanks to Agrifin, which is our consortium, supporting us to sell products in non-EU countries. So we had the opportunity to go on with this trend, with this idea. We have to consider that more than 60% of milk produced in Italy is for certain productions that can also guarantee a profitability which is well above the European average. Well, Batale, the choice of your group was also to move abroad to produce. So this is delocalization. Is delocalization an opportunity, or vice versa? Does it mean that? What does it mean? Is it detrimental for our country? So delocalizing means moving your plants. So moving plants from one country, from one place to another. With this respect, we have never delocalized. I mean, all our productions, based on the choice to develop new supply chains outside Italy, I mean, we're not going towards this direction. We had to delocalize human resources to keep on working in Italy. I mean, the staff working in the milking parlors come from Albania, and we've got very smart people coming from Serbia, Maghreb, from the center of Africa. So I think that we have delocalized human resources, but from the outside, I mean from foreign countries to Italy. And even though in terms of our organization, we still have a long way to go. As for the delocalization, I would like to make a remark, because today we have no localization, so it's quite pointless to talk about delocalization. So with the tearing down of EU barriers, we are now living in a 28 members European Union, so companies should be able to localize their productive processes in those countries where they can have the highest efficiency. Of course, the productive process, for example, which has to be developed in the Po plain, has to be developed in the Po plain. For example, in the province of Vincenzo, we reported a 40% decrease in terms of cultivated or tilled soil. So, as far as the industry or the private industries are concerned, we have had a sort of hostility. I mean, trade unions and the private companies, private farms created their own facilities. And this is going against the logics of a more open way of working. So the physical spaces where you can cultivate your soil has decreased. So also considering the environmental issues like pollution, nitrates, and whatever that we already know. I mean, since we don't have technological instruments or innovative instruments like it was confirmed by Professor De Castro, so, I mean, this is a truth. We finally think that we Italians, we continue to underestimate our quality, that is to say, the processing side of our process. See, we have reached our expansion limits, but we've got an extraordinary processing capability, which is localized simply here. Whereas the world is growing at an unprecedented pace because the consumption accounts for 2.5 million. So the risk is that we excessively focus on our country without giving the Italians the possibility to express the capabilities also outside Italy. We have got twice as much Italian employees as 10 years ago. So this 50% more of employees means also that we've got more skilled workers. I think that we are living in the most wonderful and exceptional historical period. When we arrived in Moravia, we worked 60 quintals of milk a day. We were surrounded by French and Germans. Step by step, thanks to the principle of loyal competition, we took our milk and processed milk. So there's a space for as many Italians as we want, also because our products are very much appreciated and valued. It's absurd to think that our products are products being processed by our dear foreign friends. We can do that, so delocalizations never existed.
I understand all this, but so which is the future for Italian milk producers? Well, the problem of Italy, as mentioned before by people representing large distribution, is a problem linked to the single European currency. That is, Italy is suffering from a paroxysmal situation, which is that of having adopted one single currency that is causing a crisis of liquidity with all its consequences, and consumption cannot but go down. We've seen the prices for grana padano and other products, and luckily products like this can compensate for the domestic deficiencies. But worldwide, the price plays a role. Quality is important, but the price is important as well, and the quality is not necessarily antithetical to the price. You can have top quality products at a low price, but this can be done only within a system where everything is more efficient. It is difficult in Italy to produce top quality products at a low price because the system is inefficient and expensive. We have asked for a greater participation by our governments, but actually if the state forgot about us, probably the situation would be better. We're opening many shops in the Czech Republic. I mean, there's more retail shops compared to what you do. But it is extraordinary to see that products of the Italian tradition produced in the Czech Republic are appreciated also by a retired individual in a mining city in the north of the Czech Republic. This means that our products can be appreciated by many, many different types of consumers. Consumers love them. But of course there is always the issue of the price, because you can sell a certain number for a certain price. If the price is up, you will sell fewer. If the price goes down, you will sell more. So the volume is related to the price. Experience teaches, however, that we need more courage and we must be more convinced, relinquishing the logics according to which we can develop commercial projects abroad only aiming at maximizing profits. It doesn't work because there is no money around, and the people who are coming out of poverty in the different emerging countries still do not have such a high income level to pay for the prices we imagine. Mr. Vincenzo Sant'Angiolina, COOP. Mr. Berzelli was telling us that their model envisages a production in the emerging countries of products for the market in the emerging country itself. But these are all products which are linked to an Italian tradition. Yes, of course, they're linked to our experience. I mean, we are the Italian tradition, so we bring our tradition abroad. But isn't there the risk of eroding market shares of Italian products that are made in Italy, produced in Italy? This is a difficult question. So, for sure, the locally produced Italian product is more competitive than an Italian product produced in Italy and sold abroad. So Berzelli views this as an export of the Italian creativity abroad at a low cost. But the issue is the following one. I mean, we have many products of protected origin denomination, and this increases the value of the Italian chain, and it is a concept that is a critical success factor that cannot be copied. It gives you the distinctiveness and recognizability of Italian products abroad. But it is also true, what we heard from Mr. Berzelli, that is, we cannot think about exporting products at sky-high prices. I mean, you have to export your products at the right market price. So we heard about the system, we heard about the governments, the politicians. Professor De Castro hinted to a very important point this morning. I mean, we have to think about improving here at home, improving our costs, our structural costs in our farms, in our processing companies, with an open dialogue with the distribution chains. So we need transparency, and it is the whole chain that has to improve. We have to take on two challenges for the future. The Italian market, which is going through difficulties. The population is aging, consumption styles are changing, and when consumers change their consumption styles in a moment of crisis, it is very difficult to change for the better again. So we have to expect a rationalization of consumption also in the coming years. So the Italian system is an open system now. The French have bought one of our jewelries some years ago, and thanks God there are still some Italian players pursuing important targets and important volumes and turnovers, so that they can also determine the rules. Having said this, the Italian challenge is different from the foreign challenge. In the foreign challenge, POD products, protected origin denomination products, must be enhanced. So products that are branded with their area of origin must be recognized as different from the products that can be produced abroad as well. Yes, but also products of denominated origin must be competitive as well. I mean, I'm sure that the Italian distribution system has to sort out a big domestic challenge before moving abroad. It is necessary to reorganize distribution in Italy. I mean, it is not my task to talk about foreign experiences of distribution chains abroad, because there are many experts here. But Italian companies must try to cooperate one with the other in order to become more international. And becoming more international is not an easy task. I mean, they're not all there waiting for the Italian products to flood their markets. So it is necessary to have commercial distribution facilities. It is necessary to invest in marketing. And this is very stimulating for Italian companies who can work together for a better structured internationalization. Well, talking about efficiency, yesterday evening during dinner, we were addressing this with Mr. Francesco Casula of Cooperative CLAL Borea. The Italian production system, including farms and processing companies. I mean, do you believe that there is still room for efficiency improvement and cost containment? Well, it is not a question as to whether we can do this. We must do this, and it is possible to do this. We produce milk and process milk, so we are an observatory of both chains, of both links in the chain. And we also have a pretty good idea of logistics as well. So compared to what is happening in our country as far as consumption is concerned, and as far as imports of dairy products into Italy is concerned, talking about raw materials and packaged products coming from neighboring countries, and the import is actually going up. It is increasing, and it is one further data pointing out the depletion, the impoverishment of the Italian dairy consumption market. Well, given this scenario, the chain must recover efficiency. Efficiency is paramount to tackle the present national situation. I mean, the world is important as well, but most of the milk which is produced in Italy is actually consumed in Italy, so we have to focus on the domestic market first. From Ms. Adrian Krieger, we've heard that only 1% of the global trade in this industry is located in Italy, so we produce and consume predominantly what we produce here in Italy. So it is necessary to recover efficiency everywhere, in the primary production, so in farming. And since we no longer have the problem with milk quotas, we will have more time to focus on efficiency, on improving reproduction organization, rationalization in our farms and companies. So we have to improve productivity, that's it. And this applies also to the processing sector, because the fragmentation of the dairy industry in Italy is huge, with an amazing gap compared to what we've seen in the last presentation about Ireland, where there are 2 facilities processing a huge quantity of milk. New Zealand, even more. So we still have to recover a lot of efficiency. And if we improve efficiency throughout the chain, with the support of actors in the field and politicians, I'm sure that we shall look into a sustainable future for an industry which is extremely important, because it is amongst the first ones in the food sector and is a fundamental pillar of the Italian culture. Also because, unlike other sectors, it is clear that we work in an industry which is extremely dynamic. And we have to be proud of being part of this chain, because we're working in an industry characterized by a huge global demand. So we have to streamline our production. We have to eliminate the structural barriers to our growth, because we have to pass this over to future generations. So it is very, very important to focus on efficiency. And we have to do this now. So in your opinion, the elimination of milk quotas will probably allow farmers to pay more attention to efficiency and to margins per litre of milk produced. Well, let's say that we should have started focusing on this earlier on, years and years ago. But the fact that a well-known topic of debate is going to disappear will be of help to focus on other aspects. But for sure, we should have started focusing on efficacy and efficiency much longer before. You have hinted to the Irish situation and to Gambia. So I would like to ask Mrs. Quaini the following question. Why don't we have a similar solution in Italy? Why didn't we manage to get organized in this way? Well, because we're all very individualistic, because we have a different mentality. I have to say this, and I'm sorry to say this. And I'm also sorry that the Irish colleague has left us. And I would like to congratulate Angelo for his study on production costs in farms. I am part of European Dairy Forum, and I'm always keen on seeing what happens all over the world, and I always like an exchange with foreign farmers. So we have compared our milk production data, and apart from the disappointing result, I didn't say this to Mr. De Castro this morning, but I hope that the message will be passed. Last year, the profit of farmers all came from the common agricultural policy. And you really have to think about this. I mean, we are obliged to follow an extremely bureaucratic system, and the only margin we have is the one linked to the common agricultural policy. As far as ETF is concerned, best farmers are the Irish ones, who are the most efficient ones. But this efficiency is achieved through a system that is totally different from ours. I mean, they have the land, they have free cows, no cost, no mechanical equipment, no labor costs. In Italy, as well as in other European countries, we have a totally different system. And and we are confronted with higher production costs. So efficiency requires a good management and a good corporate structure. Every farm is different, and the difference is made by a 10% improvement, for instance. So there are huge differences from farm to farm. And we have to say that the Po Valley has some excellent farms, and Suresina has capitalized on this, enhancing the territory through top-of-the-range products, distinctive, identifiable products that can bring value to their milk. So this system includes Brazzale sitting close to me, but we need more transparency. We need clear labels. We have to communicate and explain to consumers what they are taking from the shelf in the supermarket. And we're a little bit deficient in this respect. So beautiful, the idea to all sit down around a table and debate, but we need very clear premises. So foreign products must be labeled as foreign products produced with Slovakian milk, for instance. I mean, in Slovakia there are some beautiful companies. I visited them. Their rules are different from ours. Their life is more simple, but this is part of Europe, and we have to accept this competition as well, provided that it is fair and open. Right, I'm sorry, but I got lost, and I can't remember what I actually had to say. Yeah, you actually answered my question, because I asked you why did we not manage to have something similar to what they have in Ireland. Well, it also depends on your target. I mean, their product is a commodity which will open up new big chances. They have an Anglo-Saxon mentality, so they decide where they want to go, and then they develop their pathway and their plan and their route to get there with a financial and economic plan. And I was also stricken by the capitalization of these companies. The idea of selling shares to farmers, I mean, this is a wonderful example, an example that we should really follow. You said about the discussion table was a beautiful idea, but we need transparency. But where do you believe are to be found the worst problems in terms of transparency? It is difficult to say, and I can only just give you some cues. I mean, transparency in the invoices, discounts, and the year prices, promotions. It is a jungle. The relationship between farmers, processing companies, and distribution companies is a very complicated one. I experienced this at Latteria Suresina, but I think that this is well known to everybody. These are the problems. You didn't mention, for instance, the article number 62 that has created a lot of tension, even though it started from a logical idea, which was that of paying a fair price for products and paying punctually so that money can circulate. Well, most likely we were not prepared for this. In other words, we need to grow. And everybody is an accomplice, so to say, but in general terms, the ones who have more power probably use more power as well, so we need a certain balance across the chain. Mr. Ambrosi, is it true that the processing companies want to maintain a lack of transparency as far as the origin of raw materials is concerned, so that they can buy milk from abroad and sell a product which is made in Italy? No, I do not think there is a lack of transparency. Nobody wants to hide anything, and the Italian processing companies honestly declare what they do. The Italian industry has demonstrated to be able to produce extraordinary products. With time, we had to implement the Italian entrepreneurship style. In other words, we had to be creative, to invent something better compared to what others do. Because our competitive basis is not favorable due to the morphology of our territory, due to the different costs, ranging from labor costs to energy costs, you name it. But all these things together lead to a higher raw material cost, and companies have to find different ways to enhance the value of our products, to pay for the higher cost of raw materials. So I believe that as far as the capacity of Italian companies to enhance their production and the milk which is produced in Italy, we have really done a lot. But at the same time, it is true that there are some consumers in Italy who, having economic difficulties, have to look for cheaper products. And these consumers, their needs must also be met, and therefore more competitive raw materials are bought. Raw materials are brought abroad and then processed in Italy, or the products come directly from abroad. And in this case, we even lose the productivity results in Italian companies, with a loss of production, with significant economic loss. Back to Mr. Calzolari. So we have excellent farmers, excellent processing companies, but the chain is in difficulty. So where is the critical point? I mean, is it the market? Should we sell abroad? Can we no longer sell our products in Italy? And if we want to get a certain price, do we have to focus on foreign markets alone? Well, certainly you do not have to focus on foreign markets alone, but you also have to look at foreign markets. And you have to try and introduce in the Italian tradition significant innovation elements. Because it is true that there is a 5 to 10% of our exports which are products of denominated origin. But we also have the remaining part, which is a significant volume of products. Talking about tradition, you can certainly pass an image, which is important, but it is also necessary to have innovative elements that may have to do with packaging, for instance, but not only the packaging. So I'm sure that we were all stricken by the claim that cheese is a subproduct of whey today. I mean, we were joking about this before. I don't know whether whey can actually be enhanced in its value locally as well. So in other words, you need to perceive what customers ask for. And we need to make use of this extraordinary communication vehicle, which is our tradition and our gastronomic heritage. But all this has to be handed over to consumers. It has to end up on consumers' tables. Otherwise, this is just demagogics. And we go on waiting for something to happen that will never happen. And then there is also the issue of the size. I mean, without an adequate concentration, without an adequate size, it will be impossible to be present on the new markets. And innovation will also be impossible because you need huge resources to innovate. Less than 10% of innovation is what is left on the shelf, so you make a big investment and a lot of money is also wasted. But we had to go beyond the regional borders. And talking about milk today means that you have to move from a regional market to another regional market in Italy. And this is detrimental for those who have a regional seasonal production, because there is a season for tourism during which products are bought, and then there are 9 or 10 months in the year during which these very same products have to be brought to large cities where perhaps consumers will remember having enjoyed them locally somewhere else, and they're willing to buy them. For instance, one of the regions who has done so much in this respect in Italy to enhance cuisine tourism is Puglia. Now, if you go to Germany, it is a treasure hunt to find 1 liter of oil from Puglia. I mean, a lot of investments have been made, and it was good to do so because there are amazing products in that region. But then there is no follow-up, because if German or English customers do not manage to get the product in their country, then we miss out an opportunity. I mean, tradition is very important, and so are territorial peculiarities. But in one way or the other, we need to concentrate. This may be an industrial concentration alone, but I don't think that this is going to be enough because it trivializes a product. We should aim at a horizontal or segment concentration. I'll give you an example to make this clear. We have acquired a commercial company in France. This is an important company, but it is not Unilever. And we ended up being the most important exporter to France of buffalo mozzarella. This is an important product. There are hundreds of us going to France with buffalo mozzarella. But the market is determined by the buyers in France. And the same is true for many other products. I mean, there are also products that sell of their own. They're so well known, their reputation is so high that they don't even need agents to be sold. So I believe that everyone has to play his role, especially today. And I come from cooperatives, so I believe that the cooperative model can make a quality improvement. It is the time to have cooperatives of cooperatives to reach the critical mass and to tackle these complicated markets. This is just an idea, of course, but then you have to develop the idea of a cooperative of cooperatives. It is possible to do many things, but what is important is, once again, putting together the different levels of the chain to allow for product innovation and to allow for market investments. China, for instance, is a very interesting sector. I mean, maybe it is too soon to speak about cheese, but for sure China is one of those countries where demand for food is increasing, and this includes also dairy products. But to be present in China, you need to invest a lot of money. You must have your own logistics, because distribution in the country is not the same as in other countries. So you need to have a structure that can support you. And many small enterprises cannot do this. Well, from the viewpoint of product innovation, I have a question for Mr. Tassinari. In your perception of consumer demand, do you believe that product innovation actually meets this demand? Well, I shall try to answer this question, but first, if I'm allowed, I would like to give you some hints, making some remarks after listening to all these comments. That is, one of the biggest problems I can see is the following one. I mean, to sit around this table we all talk about, we have to understand each other. That's the fundamental requirement. What I mean to say is that if we go on talking without listening, and I'm the first one, but unless we understand other people's problems, we shan't have a good future. I mean, there is a lot of talk about the decline of Italy and for sure the present economic cycle points in this direction. So, in summary, I would like to expand on some issues. Issues for which distributors are at the forefront. Also to explain you why there are certain behaviors, certain attitudes and certain strategies. I mean, all this has to be explained, otherwise you think we're crazy. You think that we're fighting against everybody. But we have to try and understand each other. Well, my counterpart is a consumer, and I haven't understood yet whether consumers want products at the cheapest possible price at any cost, whether consumers don't care a damn about quality, or whether consumers, and I hope this is the case, whether consumers need, for sure, lower prices, but do not accept to give up certain values and guarantees. I mean, it is very important to understand this because we are at a crossroad. And the consumer's crossroad is also the crossroad of distributors. Because I have 8 million consumer members telling me what they want, and I am there to serve them. I have to provide them with what they want. So if my consumers are telling me I want COOP to provide me with lower prices because of the economic crisis, but I want to go on eating Italian food, I want to have a guarantee regarding food security and safety. Number 3, I want to know what you do for the environment. I want to know what you do in terms of social corporate responsibility, not only as far as COOP is concerned, but also as far as those who produce for COOP are concerned. I mean, I'm not inventing all this. Consumers actually want to know all this. And this is my direction. But there are distributors moving in the opposite direction. So you have to understand the following. In Italy, at the moment, there is a competition between distributors, which is a competition between brands. So there will be a distribution chain going in one direction. There will be a distribution chain moving in the opposite direction. And there will be many directions and many distribution chains going each one in a different direction. There are distributors that are focusing on the lowest possible price at any cost. Discounters are showing this, and they're growing. Well, I believe that table we should all sit around to debate these issues should recognize that this is the true enemy of the Italian production system and of the Italian distribution system. And there are Italian consumers wanting to go in this direction. This is why I mentioned this morning. I mean, beware. This is not demagogics. I mean, we're confronted with Italian consumers who are becoming intelligent and who can make their choices. Therefore, we have to try and understand what they expect, what they actually want. So, if an Italian producer is able to produce products for discounter chains, well, we can't do anything against this. Italian is a free country. But if we have a system that doesn't have the production capacity, that doesn't have the level of costs to meet this demand, and I mean, when I say I want Italian quality, Italian guarantee, Italian products, I also mean that I want efficiency. I mean, does anybody here think that distributors like myself with 12 million customers, 8 million members, I can say yes, you can have the quality and also pay for the Italian inefficiency. This is not the right formula, it is clear. So this famous table will have to tackle this kind of issues, including the efficiency of the Italian system. It is clear that the efficiency of the Italian system is characterized by a range. There can be inefficiency in production, inefficiency at the processing level, inefficiency in the logistics, and so on and so forth. But we do not want to say, okay, it's a made in Italy product, so we're on the safe side. Things are not like that. So try to understand the Italian distributors, because if you go on telling me, and I heard this also last Friday from the president of Federalimentari, he told me that Italy has the problem of having distribution chains without points of sale abroad. This is entrepreneurial ignorance, because CONAD has explained what they're doing. We were talking about the Japanese boom with their expanding consumption. Japan loves Italian productions. But does anybody know that in Japan we have the biggest COOP in the world? Did you know that? And when I say that we use old schemes and we think that to sell made in Italy products you need airplane carriers, well, Carrefour supermarkets are airplane carriers in their size, but this can be virtual today. So if you understand that Italian distributors are a model, I'm talking about COOP, but you can take CONAD as well, and COOP is rooted in its territory. So it has always enhanced the territory with its typical productions. Well, this also means that if my model cannot be exported to China, and I'm sure that Carrefour will come back from China sooner or later, because the Chinese will learn to develop their own Carrefour chains. They will distribute their own products. But I mean, what can I do in China? I mean, our entrepreneurial model can open opportunities. COP 100 billion worldwide, and through COP Italy, it is also possible to try and promote our products abroad. This is what I mean to say when I say that we must try to understand each other rather than blaming each other. Transparency, I absolutely agree on transparency. we have fought a battle on the origin denomination issue. Then, of course, there are discounts. I actually quarreled with the chairman of Procter & Gamble as far as contracts are concerned. He's an Egyptian, the president of Procter & Gamble in Italy. And I said, well, when you invented trade marketing, why did you refer to this as trade marketing? I mean, these were all those discounts we depreciate today so much. I mean, why did you call them trade marketing in the past and refer to them today with the Italian term deriva contrattuale? I mean, perhaps the distribution and the manufacturing or processing sector should also understand that we've gone too far. But it is not an issue of blaming each other and having rules for negotiations, because then the European High-Level Forum will say, hey, what are you doing? I mean, Italians are very amazing. We have terrible competitiveness disadvantages with the rest of Europe and the world, and then we want to be the first in class for certain aspects, to the detriment of those who could be with you, not against you, with you, to develop a project that will allow us to be successful in Italy and abroad, given the fact that we have potential. I deeply respect all of you. And I know that the Italian production is developed by excellent entrepreneurs. So I believe you are a resource for our country. You have a huge potential. I've seen what Ireland thinks about agriculture in strategic terms, and Italy has a political deficiency here in this respect. I absolutely agree with you, and it is with you that I believe I have developed, with a turnover of 3 billion euros, we have developed co-entrepreneurship projects, shared projects. So this is not an importer, but it is a distributor who, together with you, tries to develop the product which is the best suited one for a consumer who wants to go on enjoying Italian quality. And this is the result of our monitoring system, which is pretty effective. So our customers want to eat Italian food. They want to be safeguarded. And if you go abroad, especially in the United States, awareness is actually increasing. The American distribution chains have already realized how important it is for consumers to know about the safety of the food they buy. So what I'm trying to tell you, and I shall soon conclude, so what I'm trying to tell you is that our model, albeit fraught with disadvantages, fragmentation, non-competitiveness, and so on and so forth, I mean, if we sort out a few issues, it is still a model that can be taken as an example worldwide. So compared to an economic and production system which is exclusively based on speculation, and I agree with what our friend told us this morning regarding labor rights that have to be implemented in Europe. But I mean, this model of ours can become an example not only to sell more products, but because we have to export this model, because it is a model that is fundamental for our young people. So, unlike those who speculate on labor costs, juvenile work, and so on and so forth, we can juxtapose our model, the Italian model, based on a system that guarantees the excellence of Italian quality, following and respecting values, and this can be winning worldwide. And then we can work all together, because it is pointless to fight against each other. And it is pointless to cry. Everybody's going through a crisis, and we all have to try and create something that can be the future for our companies and for the whole of Italy as well. What about CONAD? Which is your opinion about all these topics? Article 62 and all the different rulings on payments, which I know have caused a few problems. Well, we have heard a lot today, and I would like to define the context a little bit. Ideally, Mr. Tassinari has said things that were actually in my mind, so I agree with what he told us, especially as far as efficiency is concerned. I mean, we talked about moving production somewhere else, but actually, it is not that difficult to find efficiency. How many producers are in this room? What about our logistics, our sales forces, our administrations? It is trivial to say that if we got together, we would cut costs. And these are not production costs, but they're the costs of the services which are necessary to present and sell your production. Analysts claim that it is very, very difficult to produce value today. This was the situation prior to 2012, with the expansion of discounters, low-price products, and so on and so forth. But now we've entered a second phase. I mean, if you put together the volumes of supermarkets, hypermarkets, small supermarkets, big supermarkets, discounters, and so on and so forth, we're selling less than 2012, and this had never happened before. Volumes are regressing for the first time. So in 2012, the reduction of volumes and the reduction of waste as well have reached a value of 1.5 billion, and this trend will reach 2 billion this year. So we have to look for values. We have to look for efficiency throughout the chain. I mean, we have to recover these volumes that have disappeared. So we can't fight on Article 62 as we are doing now, because Article 62 is based on an ethical principle. You have to pay for the invoices that need to be paid. I mean, my company had to recover 400 million euro of liquidity because we needed to pay. But you cannot think of introducing an ethical principle through the distortion of commercial policies. I mean, negotiations are different, and this is not something that we asked for. Unfortunately, a legislator simply told us that this is how we had to do. But we cannot afford this negotiation models. This won't increase efficiency, even though I claim that Article 62 is fine for my company, no problem. But this is not the case for many other companies. And in many cases that are absolutely ridiculous. There are companies writing, I shall send you my invoice on the 2nd of the month. Or other companies on the distribution side billing 10 euros for each email they receive. I mean, the situation has become ridiculous. But the principle of the Article 62 is ethically correct. The problem is that the legislator now determines the way how we negotiate. Anyway, we must be inspired. So have a look at the Melinda, the Apple consortium. They share costs and have a bigger commercial strength. Melinda sells a lot abroad, for instance, and we have to find similar solutions. We have to evaluate these solutions. Innovation is welcome. In 2012, 50% of consumption companies in Italy have reduced their advertisement investment by 20%. So how can you innovate unless there is some support? So processors must believe in innovation, because if you just put it on the shelf, it is not said that you're going to sell it. Sure, and Melinda's success is also linked to that. Sure, I would like to conclude referring to one point that Vincenzo mentioned. I mean, there is place for everybody on the market, from those who want to sell discounter products to those who want to sell premium price products. Natura C, you've probably seen the adverts on TV. I mean, I don't think their prices are low. So there are models with high prices, with TV advertising. Then we have discounter products. You just have to make a decision following your brand. So if I have a company that has a certain position on the market, I will make the relevant decisions for my own company. And these decisions, these choices are linked to the value of my company. And since we're here amongst the cheese and milk producers, all commercial brand CONAD products are unified by the fact that we use 100% Italian raw materials. Everything, yogurt, mozzarella, everything is made with Italian milk. It is written also on the packaging. And in our opinion, we can sell better in this way. But it is our decision, and you cannot think that the whole distribution chain is suitable for every type of farmer and producer. I mean, this is hypocritical. So the distribution will make its decisions. And CONAD has invested 400 million euro to buy points of sale. So we believe in what we do. Thank you very much. It is almost time to conclude. Mr. Falzetta would like to take the floor. Maybe you would like to follow the proposal of co-entrepreneurship. Well, I believe that both Mr. Tassinari and Mr. Zuliani have hinted to a very important point. Italy is still lagging behind compared to Europe and the world as far as branded products, products with the brand of the distributors are concerned. For sure, we're going through a concentration process as far as the distribution is concerned. And the distributor's brand will become more important. This means that there will be less space on the shelf. And there will be a rationalization of shelf space. This, unavoidably, will leave some brands out. GDO is an important channel in Italy, but there are no valid alternative channels. So this is an important responsibility for distributors, given the present scenario. So far, Italian companies, especially in our industry, were quite reluctant to produce for distributors' brands. But I believe that we have to make a quality jump together. We have started this strategy, and we will open up to the production of distributors' brand products. We're strong in specialities, we're strong in vegetal cream and spray cream. It is clear that companies have to make strong strategic decisions because the world is changing, the market is changing, and on the other hand, distributors have to develop the concept of partnership. So they must view producing companies as partner. Just a few very quick comments based on what we have just heard. Well, first of all, I would like to say the following. You have shown very interesting data, but they were not commented. But if I remember correctly, one of the slides told us that the Italian consumer, 89% of Italian consumers want newer products that are also more convenient. This is revolutionary compared to our view of the world, because we want to provide them with traditional Italian products which are older and more expensive, according to a certain philosophy. So we're going to the opposite direction compared to what consumers tell us. This is agri-inflation. I mean, the cost of raw materials for many, many different factors will go up. This is for sure. So the conversion of raw materials in meat and milk is going to be increasingly more expensive. So we're confronted with a very difficult scenario as far as costs are concerned and as far as prices are concerned, because unless you bring your cost onto the price, you will go bankruptcy. So it is clear that efficiency and the offer portfolio are two fundamental topics. Sometimes there is a little bit of confusion. So we mix the remuneration of milk to the store with the consumer's purchasing price. And in between, there is all of us and all what we do. But watch out, farmers today are still working in a monetary environment where the connection to the euro is frozen to the year 1997. That is, since 1997, there is no possibility of acting on the exchange rate, but the primary industry cannot go on with the strong currency. So the fact that we have the euro has devastating consequences for farmers. So farmers have problems not only because of the very high cost, but also to the extraordinary currency situation that had never happened in the past, because in the past the Italian lira was devaluated, and this was of significant help for all of us. And then I have a very personal comment. I believe that Article 62 is a defeat, because if a country, if a system is obliged to define a rule that determines payment terms, this means that the system is sick, that the country is sick, that it cannot define terms with ordinary tools, such as the existing bodies, but specifically the market. I mean, if I trust a distributor, I want to have the right of paying him at 120 days, because if that distributor is somebody I confide in, probably in a couple of years he will have more points of sale. And Article 62 will cause a concentration, as we've heard before. I mean, speaking as an industrial manager, well, is it useful for us, or is it useful for our customers who could have a bigger negotiating power? I mean, when you have acts being written, it means you're right at the end, and you cause some more imbalance in a system. So it is completely meaningless. This kind of measure only has political purposes. It is obvious we're happy to be paid promptly, this is clear, but a stiff system in this respect is something really negative. It is the first time I hear something like that from a producer. I'm amazed. Well, I said that this was my own personal opinion. I believe that something similar happened in France as well. Well, we always make a comparison with France, and I don't know why we do that. Always with France. I mean, I love our French friends, but there are 200 different nations in the world with which we could compare ourselves. Anyway, one last point. When we talk about the Italian production, and I'm telling this to you, I mean, luckily enough, not everybody thinks in this way worldwide, and they also accept foreign products. I mean, if we say that our distributors only want Italian products, or that we only want to sell Italian products, I mean, if everybody did this, our exports would plummet. It is obvious. So it is understandable that we have some national pride, but it would be suicidal if this became a worldwide system. I would like to add the following. We're historical producers of products of denominated origin. And this is a very valid brand. But when we talk about the Italian production, mention is never made of corporate brand productions. I mean, we have Mr. Lazzarin here. They have an extraordinary production with raw materials, and they have nothing to do with protected origin denomination. And there are dozens of cases of Italian creativity, and it would be so beautiful if we plucked up courage and claimed that also outside the field of denominated origin, wonderful things are possible, both with the Italian milk and, as Mr. Ambrosi told us, with other milk if the Italian milk is not sufficient, because Italy has a structural deficiency of milk. So there is a physical reason for our deficiency. We haven't got an extended territory to provide sufficient forage, and we also process milk and export many products. So we haven't got enough milk, we have to export. There is a gap. It is logical. We have to fill the gap with imports. And we import from countries that sell us extraordinary quantity, because beyond the Alps there are extraordinary countries where rules are followed, and they are the very same rules that we have in Italy. These are the rules of the European Union that are valid everywhere. So if you go to Germany and Austria, well, I'm sure that when you see the first wonderful cow or farm, you will have no doubt, because they really do follow the rules. Mr. Ambrosi? Well, for sure, we are trying to enhance those entrepreneurs and those companies that produce in Italy. We have nothing against those who produce abroad. I mean, abroad there are the biggest companies worldwide, so we have nothing to complain about. But we want to say that the policy in our country must aim at supporting the system of this country. At the beginning we said that we have to be a system consisting of consumers, enterprises, banks, distributors. I mean, if we want to enhance the value of our products, we have to promote them. Our companies must be able to sell on the Italian territory. Alliances must be signed between the distribution chains, so that we can give even more value to the products that are produced by our companies on our territory, trying to produce wealth for our country. Talking about export, we have to say that even if our system is lacking, even though we do not have an organization similar to Carrefour, the airplane carriers, as you said before, but we still believe in the export of our excellent products. We have grown in our exports. We have reached unexpected targets, 2 billion exports, 300,000 tons of cheese that have been exported worldwide, and we have a continuous and consistent growth that has characterized the last 15 years. I mean, we must put our hands together for all these enterprises who've done so much with no help at all. So I believe we must go on in this direction, because this is the right direction. Having said this, the fact that there are productions abroad, and okay, you may say that there are imitations of our tradition. I mean, it's competition, but since we work in Italy, it is only obvious that we try to stress the value of our Italian production coming from our Italian premises, and we try to do our best, developing a system together with the distribution and trying to be more and more efficient, more and more capable. But this is written in an entrepreneurial DNA. We have to become more effective, and we have heard during the morning that also agricultural companies and farms are doing their best. So there will be some who will develop and become even more efficient. Others will make it and will exit this industry. And this is true for farmers, this is true for companies, and this is how it will go on in the future. Well, I believe 10% of farms are closed every year. That's right, but the quantity of milk produced doesn't go down. Mr. Bortoli? Well, I just wanted to add that entrepreneurs like Mr. Brazzale and Mr. Lazzarin cannot but be recognized for their excellent leadership in their companies that bring luster to the whole Italian industry. But we cannot ask them to provide us with a solution to the problem of the Italian milk. I have realized from Mr. Tassinari's words that it is true that there are two different categories of distributors. And this is not only clear in the relationship I mentioned before. I mean, you can see this also in the small things. Article 62 was very positive. I mean, those who were doing fine did even better. And we have a consistent positive balance. And we are serene because many distributors were actually going beyond the limits imposed by insurance companies. I mean, this was becoming a real problem. And the same happens when you talk about brands. I mean, on one hand, they just want the price. That's it. But with other distributors, you can talk about the quality of the product. You can take them to visit your company. You can show all the guarantees you can provide in terms of certificates, in terms of processes. So I believe that it is impossible to think to have the same type of relationship with the different counterparts, because there are many different types of distributors. So if the price of milk goes underneath a certain threshold, I mean, even though we have done everything possible to increase efficiency with automation and so on and so forth, but beyond a certain threshold, our mounting farmers will have to close down. Well, I believe we can conclude here. And I would like to start to draw the conclusions from Mr. Bortoli's words. I mean, the private sector cannot alone enhance the value of the Italian milk, but I believe that we cannot expect too much from politicians as well. So, I believe that efficiency is a very important topic that has emerged over and over again. Efficiency, aggregation, concentration, segmentation of the market based on the origin and the quality of the product. So if we want to save the Italian milk industry, we have to do something. So let's follow Mr. Tassinari's invitation. Let's all sit down around the table and analyze the possibilities of efficiency and to better define the segments of the market. Efficiency. Efficiency and transparency bring me back to CLAL. Transparency is something compulsory. This is what I think. So may I thank you all for being here today. My very special thanks go to Mr. Vincenzo Tassinari. Thank you very much. Mr. Tassinari was very busy today, but he left all his previous commitments in order to be here today, and he has demonstrated how serious COOP Italia is, and I've known COOP Italia for many, many years. I would like to thank Mr. Francesco Pugliese for sending Mr. Zuliani here for CONAD. Mr. Giuseppe Zuliani, whom I did not know before, I was very glad to get to know him. Thank you very much for being here, for sharing your ideas with us. I would like to thank all the companies which are here today. And I mean, you have said everything. There's not much I can tell you. I can only wish you success and good luck to the panelists and to the companies represented here. And don't give up. Keep charging. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much to all the people who have followed us with the streaming of our event. Well, I believe that everybody agrees on the fact that you deserve a big applause for all what you have done. This is something really extraordinary, Angelo Rossi. Thank you very much. Very well, so thank you very much and see you next year. We shall certainly have new ideas also for the coming year. Thank you very much, and thank you very much also for